My name is Meg Morris. I'm the co-founder of the Cape Cod Anti-Litter Coalition, and I'm really happy to see you all here today. And I think, this whole summit is a very interesting concept for us to think about. Is we are a destination. How do we improve upon what we naturally have? And so what we have, or who we have this morning, are four businesses, actually four new businesses, relatively new businesses here on Cape Cod. And as I was getting ready to moderate this panel today, I kept coming across the concept of branding as a tool for success. And hearing the prior speakers, I thought again about branding, how we brand Cape Cod as an eco-destination, as a place that we want tourists to come and enjoy what we are all so fortunate to be able to live with. You're going to hear them talk about branding and its relationship to sustainability. And you're also going to hear them talk about how they're giving back to the community, which I think also is a very key part of sort of the new business concept today, is giving, you're in a community, give back to that community. Now, we have asked them, as relatively new businesses, to also talk about challenges that they've had with regard to sustainability, from both an environmental and a business point of view, because you can't look at one without looking at the other. If the business can't survive from a business point of view, they can do all these wonderful things from a sustainability point of view, but they won't be around for very long. So these are all things that each one is going to address in a different way. So we're going to start this morning with Mimi Dufault, from the AutoCamp Cape Cod. Mimi just changed her job recently. She formerly served as the AutoCamp Cape Cod General Manager, and she's been now promoted to People and Culture Manager for AutoCamp's whole East Coast region. Mimi's background includes over 25 years in the hospitality industry, working her way up through operations and people services in various branded and independent properties. She's a resident of our beautiful Cape Cod, and in her spare time takes advantage of all things the Cape has to offer. So please welcome Mimi as our first speaker.
Well, it's really exciting to be here today and to be able to participate and tell you a little bit about our property and our company. So I'm sure some of you are asking, what is AutoCamp? AutoCamp is an outdoor lodging establishment. We are located in Falmouth, and we sit on 13 acres of land, and we operate year-round. We have 108 accommodations that are available during peak season, and we operate on 61 in the off season. So AutoCamp Cape Cod's the first East Coast location. We operate, like I said, year-round. We bring high-end boutique-style amenities, mid-century modern design, and welcoming hospitality to some of the world's most beautiful natural places. So at AutoCamp, one of our key values is to love the environment. We're all about getting people outdoors responsibly, and we aim to follow the 7 core principles of Leave No Trace. I highlighted kind of the 4 principles that really pertain to sustainability. We are plan and prepare. Why? Because minimizing waste and resources and damage. Dispose of waste properly. Why? A no-brainer. If it's not disposed of properly, it'll end up harming animals, plants, water, and end up in the waterways. Leave what you find. moving elements of the natural ecosystem can cause permanent damage. Such behavior also sets example for future guests. And minimize campfire impacts. Well, campfires are a part of camping, and it's part of the experience, but they are also dangerous. So we provide fire pits at every site and only allow compressed logs and charcoal to be burned. Our goal at AutoCamp is always to leave the land we reside on better than when we found it. As part of the company's commitment to preserving natural ecosystems, AutoCamp restored over 22,000 square feet of wetlands with native plants on the property, which will expand the local wetland habitat, reduce water runoff into local waterways, and support native pollinator plants. As well, we installed an amphidrome system, which is one of the most biologically advanced wastewater treatment plants, which replaced a 1960s cesspool system and is the benchmark for all future wastewater treatments. You know, as with any development project, there are some construction activities that have an impact on the site. Our site has been a campground for over 100 years, and most recently, before we purchased it, was a family-owned and operated campground for 58 years. Prior to breaking ground, AutoCamp surveyed the land and tried to preserve all the viable trees on property. In addition, to restore the site from what was removed, we planted over $1 million worth of native trees and plants throughout the campground to promote the regrowth. We've partnered with green landscaping companies here on the Cape, eco-friendly pest control companies to service the property and protect the soils and local waterways. And on top of that, giving back to the community. AutoCamp has a $1 a night program donating $1 per room night for each reservation to the 300 Committee Land Trust. This supports preserving natural places for Falmouth, and to date, since we opened last April, we've donated $14,700. So some of the initiatives that we do on our site, really it's about educating the guests, especially because not everybody who comes to stay with us is familiar with camping, because we're kind of a hybrid of a traditional hotel stay and getting people outdoors. So we start this through our website, pre-arrival emails that have videos, check-in packets, and pre and during stay Zingle text communications. We promote reduce, reuse, and recycle. We sell special wood in our general store to reduce fire and smoke danger. It's called Green Mountain Firewood, but it actually was patented right in Falmouth. We have recycling and composting program in place on the property. We limit single-use plastics in our operations. Our suites are only cleaned upon departure. Dirty linen and terry is placed in reusable linen bags and taken off-site to a commercial linen plant for laundering. And as part of our amenity fee, each suite comes with 2 reusable aluminum water bottles, and we have a refilling station on the property in the clubhouse. So these are souvenirs for our guests to take with them and reuse. We have photocell low-lit ground path lighting to reduce light pollution, EV and Tesla electric charging stations available on property. And we also curate our property programming, such as foraging walks and nutrition discussions with local experts who work with Sustainable Cape and nonprofit that celebrates local food while teaching about the health of our bodies, community, and the environment. This is just some of the collateral that you'll find throughout the site. Fire safety, leave no trace, sensitive plumbing, help us conserve. And we partner with companies that support our brand ethos. So some of our partners are, like I said, Green Mountain Firewood, Pathwater, Cape and Island Teas, which is part of our in-room and breakfast program, ticket chocolates, Ursa Major skincare, and Cayuchi blankets. But it starts with us first. So internally, in an effort to reduce the use of paper, we utilize technology on the property, both to communicate to our team members and for our overall operation. It starts with our hiring and onboarding, where we have paperless applications and electronic onboarding. We use Google Workspace for internal chat, real-time document collaboration and sharing. We use a system called No Cross, which is the 21st century platform of the traditional paper version of a checklist, and all can be done through a smartphone. And it helps with a massive reduction in our property's carbon footprint. So that's just a little bit about AutoCamp, and I allow you for thanking me to share our story with you.
So I was remiss as a moderator. I should have said we're going to have each of our businesses speak for roughly 10 minutes, and then we'll take any questions at the end. So please forgive me. Our next speaker is Kelly O'Connell. Kelly is a Cape Cod native who spent nearly 2 decades in New York City. She graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology and spent her career managing product development and marketing for lifestyle brands such as Martha Stewart, The Pioneer Woman, and Weight Watchers. In 2021, Kelly launched the Lighthouse Keepers brand of gourmet food and opened a cafe and gourmet shop in the heart of her hometown of Yarmouthport with her business partner, Greg Bilezikian, and called it Lighthouse Keepers Pantry. So Kelly, if you'd like to come up. And okay, so Greg is coming as well, the partner. Greg is both an entrepreneur and philanthropist. You may know his name relative to the Christmas tree shops. When he graduated from Brant College, he joined the Jordan Marsh Executive Training Program. From there, he worked with Crate and Barrel before returning to the Christmas tree shops in 1990. When the business was acquired by Bed Bath & Beyond in 2003, Greg assisted his parents with negotiations and transition activities. Greg continued his family history of designing and manufacturing gifts and home decor items on both the retail and wholesale levels. He's been busy locally, and you might recognize some of these businesses, like Willow Street Designs, Just Pick Gifts, and Lighthouse Keepers Pantry. And that's just his activity here on Cape Cod. Greg is a board member of his family's charitable organization, the Bilezikian Family Foundation, which focuses on education, health and human services, the arts, and of course the environment. He's also on the board of the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance and the United Way of Cape Cod, where he founded and manages the microgrant program. So I'd like you to welcome Kelly and Greg.
I think this is out of order.
Oh, well. So just go, there's only one, just go one.
Okay.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly O'Connell. This is Greg. Mag did a nice job of introducing us. We did want to talk a little bit about our background and what brings us here today and to partner together on Cape Cod. Greg, you want to start with a little bit about your history?
Sure. It's great to be here and great to be part of this wonderful event. And it's certainly great to hear about the collaboration and the sort of 50,000-foot version of how collaboration and environment can all come together. So yeah, as was sort of said, I grew up sort of importing product from all over the world, and as COVID came along and the world started to change, it was time to come home and try to focus on things made in the United States and come up with different concepts that could help our local economy. So, from Lighthouse Keepers Pantry to dreaming about a codfish farm to coming up with different ways we can bring jobs to Cape Cod and improve earnings and improve our community is really a focus of mine through this is sort of the first of hopefully other opportunities we can bring.
So together, Greg and I started what is called Lighthouse Keepers. We have two segments of our business. One is a wholesale gourmet food business, and the other is a cafe and gourmet food shop in Yarmouthport. My background stems from product development, particularly with lifestyle brands. I worked for Martha Stewart, the Pioneer Woman, Weight Watchers. I've worked with Girl Scouts, Ford Motor Cars, a lot of different brands that we are really familiar with. My role there was developing and researching strategy and marketing strategies and product development. I worked with retailers such as Walmart, Macy's, QVC, really these big retailers that we think about, really import a ton of products from overseas. And most recently in my career was developing food products within the CPG companies like Kraft Heinz, Nestle, and Purina. So our background together, we've really had a lot to do with importing a lot of gifts from overseas. And if you think about retailers like Walmart, they're producing hundreds of thousands and millions of units of these items that are just going to end up in landfills. And so as a result of COVID, I found myself back on Cape Cod working remotely for my job in New York. And with Greg together, we started a gourmet food business called Lighthouse Keepers. Our focus is in specialty food. The products that we sell are recipes developed on Cape Cod by myself. We work in small batch production. So if you think of small batches in the size and the idea of like 20-quart pots, stirring it by hand, everything is hand chopped. We don't work in giant kettles and piping food through pipes, really sort of, gross ways that big CPG companies produce their foods today. We source our ingredients regionally to our production. Most of our products are produced in the Hudson Valley of New York in a small kitchen that does everything by hand. So we're American made, and our products are consumable. So things that people are using once, and we have recyclable, reusable packaging, so we're not filling landfills with things that you use for a year and toss away because you don't want them anymore. We also have a flagship cafe in Yarmouthport where we use all of the products that we have on our menu. So as we talk about stewardship and the Cape and why we love the Cape and what can bring tourism here, our cafe offers an experience within food where you can try all of our foods on the menu and then purchase them as well within our gourmet food shop. Our brand is called Lighthouse Keepers. It's inspired by the life and recipes of a lighthouse keeper on Sandy Neck Beach. Sandy Neck Beach is my favorite place here on the Cape, and if you guys are familiar with it, the landscape has a lot of natural cranberry bogs, wild blueberries, and beach plums. And the business really started as a jam business. I started making jam for my father at my parents' house when I was working remotely from New York, and started a jam stand in my front yard. And together with Greg, we partnered to grow the business to be a wholesale business where we sell to over 100 stores today within 13 states. The idea really came from myself working in a long, sort of quiet Cape Cod winter. I thought about the lighthouse keeper on Sandy Neck. How would the lighthouse keeper have spent his long winters, and how would they have foraged for the foods that grow native to the land? And I thought, I'm making jam in a long, boring winter. Maybe he could have made jam. And since then, it's really turned into other things. So we have 20 SKUs today between jams, hot sauces, condiments, Bloody Mary mix, honey, pickles, just to name a few.
We just started our own honey farm with 10 hives last week.
Mm-hmm. So beyond our wholesale business, we have a gourmet food shop and cafe located on 6A in Yarmouthport. We occupy a beautiful antique home that is built in 1790. We operate the cafe downstairs, and I live upstairs. We have a dining room that seats 17 people, and we have many of our food on the menu. So, for example, our raspberry jam is on the inside of our muffins. We have our horseradish sauce made with cranberries that we put on our roast beef sandwiches. And the dining room sort of operates as an inspirational view from the lighthouse, where we have many antique sailboat paintings to kind of create that experience that, again, we talk about as Cape Cod and really bringing in beautiful places where people want to visit and stay. Some of the things that we do within our cafe, like I mentioned, we use our foods on our products to sample the line for our customers. We operate as a neighborhood gathering place to really is a place for our community to come, especially as we think about life post-COVID, where we've spent a lot of time away from each other. It's become the ultimate place to reconnect with your family and friends. We just introduced beehives. We have 10 beehives around the Cape to produce our own honey. We're building a pollinator garden and cutting garden for our bees, and we'll use the cut flowers to sell in our jam jars and to recycle them to use for a different purpose come the summer. We are also building a chicken coop to be able to produce our own eggs, so we can use the eggs in our baked goods as well as sell them to our customers. We don't allow any single-use water bottles within our shop, so if you would like water, we have compostable cups to use, or you can fill your own water bottle. We also use compostable food service materials, and the team at Take Care has been really generous to provide us with contact information to help us work with a local agency called Black Earth to help us dispose of those compostable materials properly. We also used a lot of locally sourced gifts and food products in part of our gift shop and retail space, because again, as we think about going from the world where we're importing tons of goods from China, we really want to be able to focus on local and small business and selling more authentic gifts to our customers as they come through the door. We also really are focused on providing livable wages to our employees. Our barista staff and our kitchen team are paid well above the minimum wage and really have a livable wage within our store. And they're really grateful, and that allows us to curate a really strong team of great employees.
Yeah, so Just Pick Gifts is the original Christmas tree shop location. Was closed by Bed Bath & Beyond, and I reopened it, sort of selling, when I was in import business, the things I would import, but now we're really transitioning it into as many locally made products and locally sourced products as we can. We'll try anything. We will give any entrepreneur an opportunity to sell their product that they make. We do try to focus on Cape Cod, but if it's made in the United States, we're going to give it a try and try to build that, try to build a small market around that. Definitely challenging, but it is the vision of where I really want to take the property.
So thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. I like the idea of the horseradish with cranberry sauce. That sounds really good. I'll have to stop by. Our next speaker is Patrick Clarke. Patrick is a Rhode Island native and was working in finance after graduating from Babson College. Like many of us, he summered on the Cape as a boy, and in 2013, he founded Cape Clasp by creating a simple bracelet with a pendant shaped like Cape Cod attached to a cord, and with that, developed a partnership with the Cape Cod National Seashore. The Cape Clasp is a brand dedicated to honoring and giving back to ocean and marine life causes. Very appropriate for the Cape. Cape Clasp has a model for sharing which has resulted in nearly $192,000 to nonprofits in less than 10 years. That's really significant, and you're to be applauded on that. So Patrick?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me today. I thought I'd tell you guys a little bit about Cape Clasp. So Cape Clasp, we have products that give back to ocean and marine life causes. Like Meg was saying, our story goes back to 2013. At the time I was working in Boston. I had a job that I just had no real passion for. I was working in the finance world. And I'd been doing that for about 5 years. Prior to that, I'd spent all my free time on the Cape. This is where met all my best friends, have all my best memories, had first jobs and everything. And I really felt I was losing my connection to Cape Cod. And through that, I was thinking, I got to find a way to really reconnect with the Cape. And at the time, Instagram was really popping off as like this platform that people were using. And my favorite thing to do was always to bring my friends around the Cape, show them my favorite places and favorite things to do around our home here. And through that, I decided to start posting on Instagram my favorite places and hiding geocaches in those locations. So we were hiding in Pelican cases at the time, these waterproof cases, a little logbook, and I'd do one at the Knob, or I'd do one along the National Seashore, and it was, it kind of was a really fun project and started to gain some traction. Through that, a lot of those geocaches were getting stolen, and then people were asking us, like, I can't find it and all this stuff. So I was thinking it makes sense to kind of put a memento in there and make it so when you find it, you just take it home with you. So at the time, I had seen this rope bracelet that was made with a fishing hook, like not a sharp fishing hook, but like kind of a fish hook as the clasp of the bracelet. And I made one, we started iterating on how could we make one shaped like Cape Cod. And I was surprised no one had really, tried it before. And it was really good timing because it was at the start of when 3D printing was really getting accessible, and making jewelry became something that, the supply chain and kind of the way you make jewelry got a lot easier. So we started making these bracelets, putting them in the geocaches, hiding them. All my friends and family started calling them Cape Clasps, so that's where the business name comes from. And after that, we were, people started asking, where can we buy them? How can we support you? And that led us to building a website and thinking about expanding our offering. We built a give back model, so for every product, we're giving 15% of profits to a nonprofit cause. Our second piece was a great white shark, kind of very similar to that hammerhead shark, and is still our most iconic piece. That's really what cemented us as a brand, and we partnered with Atlantic White Shark Conservancy on that piece. We kept iterating on this model, and as the business grew, and just by nature of trying to bootstrap and build a business, and also building something in a community of people who are really focused on sustainability and stewardship, we were getting a lot of questions from consumers. Why are we putting our product? We had them on these paper cards, but then we'd have them in a plastic sleeve. So they were like, do you really need the plastic sleeve? And then we were mailing them in poly mailers, and everyone was like, a lot of people were emailing us like, hey, really want to support you guys, but why are you using poly mailers? And, and I started to think, we're trying to do all this work for ocean and marine life nonprofits and for that space, but really want to stop contributing to the issue in any way. So that got us kind of down this rabbit hole of how cool would it be if you got a package in the mail and everything from the packaging to the product itself was 100% recycled. So we started using craft paper mailers, and then we wanted to use ocean plastic as the raw material in the product. That, speaking to some challenges, it was, at the time, there wasn't a manufacturer you could go to. The industry is evolving, but at the time, you couldn't go to a manufacturer and ask, hey, we want to make this, and we want to make it out of ocean plastic. You really had to piece together every piece of the supply chain, which, over time, we kept working on. And then once we find a raw material, you got to find a manufacturer who's willing to run this material through their machines, because it's not as clean as a virgin material. So we found a manufacturer who was willing to work with us, and we named this brand, it's like a sub-brand of Cape Clasp, Tikos. So the word plastikos is a Greek word that is the origin of the word plastic, but before it meant plastic, it meant to shape or mold behavior. And so our idea was that we'd start with a simple shape, something that would be easy to run through the machines, and it would be a daily reminder to protect the ocean. So our first season of those bracelets, we did 4 styles, and they each came with a challenge. So it was skip the straw, bring the bag, keep the cup, and we called it initially take the trash, but then we found out no one's buying stuff online that has trash in the title, so we changed that one to clean the coast. And that season, that was our, at the time, the Cape Clasp business, so the traditional bronze and silver jewelry that we sell, was the biggest chunk of the business, but that first run of bracelets sold out really quickly. From there, we did one with another run that we called Season 2 with Beneath the Waves, an organization with ties to the Cape, but they have an array of shark receivers, and they do shark tagging down in the Bahamas. So we did a launch with them where we donated a number of receivers, and we were able to go down with them, put these receivers on the ocean floor, expand their array, and we we worked with them to kind of put together a marketing campaign around that what they were doing down in the Bahamas. That season did really well, and so right now we're on our third season of the bracelets. So we have 16 styles, a partnership with the National Park Foundation, and each one ties to a different national park or seashore throughout the U.S. And so through that, while we were doing that, we also worked on a second product in that line, which we call Tico's Sunnies. So you can see those in the top and bottom picture there. So they're super lightweight, flexible, which was all kind of stuff we didn't know until we actually started making stuff out of the material. But they've been another fast-growing segment for us. What we do is, so our marketing strategy is all tied to telling the stories of our nonprofit partners, sharing fun facts about the ocean, and we run an ambassador program that we call Wave Makers, where when you sign up for the program, you get a sticker pack and some collateral about the business, but you also get a piece of paper that is a pledge to clean up a local beach or trail or anything around your hometown. So in our office, we've received thousands of these paper cards with people's, the location that they want to clean up. And then we have like a map with a little pin board of every place that, we feel like we've had some kind of impact there as well. I want to make sure I touch on everything here. Oh, so that supply chain that we work with on the Tico side, and then now on Cape Clasp, we work with a company called Climate Neutral, where they work with you to estimate your carbon emissions, and so anything above and beyond, so the impact of our travel and everything we do to run the business, we also offset that. So we're a climate neutral certified company. We're part of 1% for the Planet, so they certify our giving. And like Mike said, we've given almost $200,000 to nonprofits around the Cape and Islands. So we work really closely with Hui, Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. We work at Coastal Studies, a lot of local nonprofits. And yeah, it's been a really fun journey. I never thought, when we started this, I never really thought it'd be my full-time job or that we'd have a small team and do all this stuff. And yeah, I really am grateful for what we get to do. And yeah, happy to answer any questions that people have. And some new stuff we're working on. We're working on a new line with a new material that we are that's recycled fishing nets, so recovered fishing nets. So that's stuff we're working on for the near future. And something we do now, as well as we have a program we call Tides, that's all limited edition apparel. So we do really short runs on our website. They usually sell out within 20 minutes of us launching the product. And we also use that program to do e-commerce partnerships with our nonprofit partners. So we're driving traffic directly to their e-commerce experiences, building all the assets they need to run a successful e-commerce campaign. So everything from the pictures to the copywriting to the assets you need for email and social. That's what we do on a daily basis is really educate people on what our nonprofit partners are doing, what you could be doing to support the ocean, and really show like how cool and like wild Cape Cod is. Even though if a lot of times you see I don't know, to just like destination travel and stuff, and I think a lot of the cool stuff is right in your backyard. And yeah, but thanks for having me, and yeah, glad to be here. Thanks.
Okay, actually, 4 very interesting businesses, and I think you all ought to talk to each other, between the jams and the bracelets and the sunglasses and all that good stuff. So please do talk with each other. So are there any questions? Wait, come closer.
The AutoCamp folks. I was just curious. I liked hearing what the Lighthouse Keepers had to say about, sort of removing the global and bringing it to the local. And then I like hearing the Cape Clasp feedback that you've been getting from
it has been a topic, and you know, it starts with our campfire chats and part of the education piece. And one of the things we do upon everybody's departure is to send out post-stay surveys, and we've started to receive a lot of positive feedback about all the efforts and things that people didn't know and how that impacts them. Even through our arts and crafts program with the kids, of, you know, how when we go out and pick a rock and utilizing that versus going to the store and purchasing materials. So it's part of the education piece, and it's bringing that to, you know, to a new light. A lot of our event weekends, like I was talking about with our foraging and nutrition walks, like we utilize local vendors, and, you know, we really highlight our local partnerships. So it is having an impact, and people are very receptive to it, and, you know, and appreciative that those are the efforts that we're taking.
Laura, did you want to expand that same question to everyone?
Yeah, well, I don't want to take up all everyone's time, so let's ask some other.
Is there another?
I could talk to these guys for 5 hours.
So, yes, you have to come closer so we can hear you.
Very good. So I'm Heather Dufault. I'm from the Board Recycling Committee, and I love the AutoCamp. I go by it all the time, and I'm on the trail. But my question is for Mr. Bilezikian. You had said one of your last sentences that you had it was challenging to stock your Just Pick store. So what if you could expand on that word? I'm sure there's many just because I think about having lived here for so long, there are a lot of products that are wonderful that could go into your store. So, you know, how is it?
Yeah, I think we just was trying to find enough products that are locally made and sourced that can be held to a standard that will satisfy the customer. With a little bit of identity crisis with the building being a low price store before moving into a different sort of customer base, and as well as tourism. I mean, people come down 6A and want to buy something that says Cape Cod or something to bring home, and a lot of that stuff not necessarily is affordable. They're looking for some memorabilia. So there is a, you know, trying to be whole to each piece is a little bit complicated. And then we've tried things that just don't sell. I mean, we need to continue to cultivate products that will bring, you know, keep the people that work there employed and keep it profitable. So there are always some challenges. I just hope there were more. I think I am looking to try to sponsor some more entrepreneurship, either through WeCan or some of the other organizations on the Cape, to see if we can come up with other ways to entice people to, you know, bring more commerce to the Cape locally. It just takes time, and that's only I'm only at that mission in that building for a little while now. So.
Other questions? Phil.
I think I can speak up loudly enough. Phil from the town of Warren. And the question is to the AutoCamp director there. What has been the response to the $1 a room night charge? Is it automatic, volunteer? Just part of the bill they ask about it, what do they say?
So it is automatic. We have a $25 a night amenity fee. With the amenity fee comes the reusable water bottles. We have a fleet of bikes that our guests can take out, readily available to partake on the Shiny Seat bike path. We highlight that as part of our check-in, and it's not anything that anybody has ever pushed back on. We also work with the 300 committee. They do some of our chats and education sessions. They participate in our programming. We have their trail maps available, so it's one of the things that we promote when people want to go hiking out in the Falmouth area. So not once have we ever gotten any pushback on that $1 a night.
Well, I thought so. And so my question for Meg and Jill, maybe talk about it in the conference a little bit later, or this is the theme, I think they did this in Lake Tahoe, is it can take care of Cape Cod, have a QR code or something that you work with retailers that, round up your change, send it to Take Care Cape Cod, and support local environmental initiatives to help your tourist destination and all the themes that Mr. Miller spoke about earlier, and brand that to start raising, so the funding is there that then you can push out to the local organizations. Is that something you're considering doing?
It's a darn good idea.
I'm going to push back because what I would sense is that if everybody's believing and buying into, which I think more and more people are, what Mr. Miller said in Crest, you're going to want to look for opportunities that, well, I came here, I spent some money, but I'd like to support these organizations. I'm having an impact, what can I do? We've got evidence now, data that says that, I always wonder why when people go to the Caribbean, it's a beautiful place to go vacation, but really 5 miles from the resorts, it's really not very nice. I mean, there's open dumps, and it's really devastating what happens behind the scenes. But I would say, boy, I would surely give $10 in my flight, on top of my ticket to help the local economy for environment, whatever we're visiting. So same here in the Cape. So maybe that's something that could come out of this, and I think it's a model you've got right there.
Mm-hmm.
And Crest maybe could help you with some of the planning on that. Am I wrong about that?
Jill?
I'll actually address it. Thank you, Bill. I mean, this is not a plan. We actually did speak with Mimi and AutoCamp about care early on, and Jim's still here. Care has a stewardship program, and their guests and the resort contributes and supports us in that way. And it is something that we're definitely looking to expand. We'd love to do more for Take Care as well. So thank you for bringing that up. I'd love to, maybe there could be a class that's Take Care related and things like that. So.
Right, and that's why when each of you talked about branding your particular businesses, and I said to myself, and I know that's where we want to be with Take Care Cape Cod as well, is branding the concept and the activity of taking care of Cape Cod. And so, yes, if there's a way that, down the line where we can attach some monetary value to that, all the better, because we all know everything functions with money. You can't avoid it. And so it's how to raise the funds that are necessary to become the next Take Care like Tahoe, but Take Care Cape Cod, because Take Care Tahoe has been incredibly successful, as you've heard from other presentations. I think we heard a lot from Patrick, actually, on how his customer base has given him actually a lot of feedback on how he's doing things. And so I just wondered, Mimi and Greg and Kelly, whether you're actively hearing things from your customer base on the things that you're doing in your shops, and you and in the AutoCamp. So just go ahead.
Yeah. So again, we solicit feedback because it only helps make us better and helps us fine-tune our operations. So we take a lot of our guests' feedback into consideration as we're making changes, whether it's something that we're selling in our store, our general store, whether it's, most recently we've been getting a little bit more feedback because our Green Mountain firewood comes in reusable plastic, but our guests want to see that plastic just disappear. So we've been working with the vendor there on, trying to make that happen. Our s'mores packets that now comes in cardboard versus initially they wanted to sell it to us in plastic. So, with the feedback that our guests give us, be certainly taken into consideration and look for ways to incorporate that into our daily operations.
Kelly or Greg?
Well, I was going to say,
Oh.
one big thing was we started with not using reusable linen bags for when we cleaned our rooms. And so that was something that got pointed out, and, you know, within 24 hours, we had that order to be able to incorporate that into our property operations.
I'll give it two parts. From Lighthouse Keepers' point of view, I think we do everything we can to keep the brand and branding as solid as we can and talk to the customer. As a resident of Cape Cod, I wish the recycling programs were a little more solid state, so I knew exactly what was going to happen. So I would put the energy in to make sure that everything that I did across businesses would be recycled. I just feel like we put as much energy into it as we possibly can without frustrating ourselves or wasting time and energy. Just
So in terms of the gourmet food business, we get a lot of questions. Probably the biggest question we get is, where is the food made? Do you make it yourselves? We used to make the jam ourselves here on the Cape at home, but in scaling up, we weren't able to do that. We weren't able to produce the quantities that we needed to maintain the wholesale business at the scale we had. So we work with a kitchen co-packer, is what they're called, and that's located about 211 miles from where we are located in Normanport. So that's considered local in the sense of it's a day's drive, it's under 500 miles. We wouldn't be able, there is no facility on the Cape to be able to produce that scale of quantity that we need in terms of managing our wholesale business. We also don't have the sourcing capabilities from a vegetation standpoint to get the berries locally, where we work in the Hudson Valley, and Hudson Valley is fertile with berries and peppers and pickles and cucumbers, sorry, all the different fruits and vegetables that we need to use to produce the products. So while we would love to say that we are made on Cape Cod, we started off being made on Cape Cod, we consider ourselves made regionally, locally, in that regard, because we just can't do that here. We just don't have the facility or the growth structure and the garden structure to do that. But that's probably the biggest question we get. We don't get too much other pushback in terms of the packaging that we use is made in the USA, from the paper is made in the USA, printed in the USA, it's printed in New Bedford actually, and our glass is all produced in Arkansas, so we aren't using anything from overseas in what we do.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse McLean, Center for Coastal Studies. I just have a question for any panelist, and I think it's great that at AutoCamp you're actually, by comments you're getting from customers, you're actually changing other vendors and their sustainability, which sounds really awesome. But just a question for any of you, or all of you, is what is the biggest impediment that you found for being working sustainably, having sustainable products? Is it the sourcing of those products, like the glass or recycled, or packaging without plastic? What is the biggest, or is there no impediment? Like, you can do it, it's easy, and everyone should do it, which would be a great answer. But what is the biggest impediment for being as sustainable as you can?
Having the people that stay with you buy into that and actually follow through with all the efforts that you're promoting and taking that extra step to the recycling bin versus putting it into the trash, composting versus trash. I mean, that's a lot of, I think, what the impediments are, and it's something that we're trying to change, again, repetitively with our signage, with all of our communications, with our, just by asking somebody in the morning, how their coffee is, and using a reusable cup versus taking the biodegradable cup.
Yeah, I would say it's generally it's finding suppliers who have those options. I think is the biggest. That doesn't mean they're not always out there. It's just it's not easily, depending on whether it's packaging materials or raw materials or a manufacturing partner. It can be difficult to find someone who does exactly what you want in the United States. Or, you know, but I think what I've seen just over the course of the last, you know, 6 or 7 years is those options are, you know, it's definitely what the consumer is asking for, and that trickles down to how these manufacturers and suppliers of packaging are marketing themselves. So, you know, I think like there's a lot more options out now, and I think it really just it depends on. So, you know, I think it starts with small business, and then, you know, kind of is like big brands are an important part of it too, to really be asking for this stuff and buying this stuff, and then it kind of supports the whole ecosystem. So yeah, that's how we've seen it kind of evolve over time.
I think for our world, where Greg and I came from working in the gift industry, product industry, we were producing things overseas. The food industry is largely produced in the U.S., and so it's a little easier in that regard to get the products we need here. Some of the actual food ingredients aren't made here, but most of them are. So we have a lot of easier time within that wholesale business to be able to procure the things that we need. Because the glass is all made here. You can get glass from China, but we don't. It's not as clean as a glass here, and you know, so we're able to get all the materials that we need stateside and fairly locally from an ingredient standpoint. I think the furthest thing that travels is our glass, which comes from Arkansas. But everything else is really we're luckier in that regard that we can get our hands on things from the U.S.
Okay. One more quick question, and then we need.
Follow-up question. I'm Jamie Clarke from Good Awaits, and so the flip side, what are the benefits to your businesses for operating this way, and why personally is it important for you to operate this way?
Open to anyone.
For me personally, I really love where I live, and I love being able to be local. My family's close, my kids love it. My neighbors are enjoying it. I'm personally having a great time. I've got a great partner, Kelly, in the community that I'm around, who's really thriving through all these efforts. So it's been personally very gratifying. From the business side, the obstacles that I thought we would face are not as large. However, price increases are out of control. There's a full inflation thing. I mean, there's some macroeconomic issues that are, you know, bring those business fears out. But otherwise, personally, it's been a great opportunity.
So for me, similar to Greg, being able to be close to home. I grew up in Yarmouthport, and then I moved to New York City when I was 18. I went to college there. I spent my career there, and having the opportunity with COVID to come back and really plant some roots here again. I haven't ever, after spending a few months here, I was like, oh God, I do not want to go back to New York. I love the Cape. What am I doing? Why have I been gone for so long? You know, growing up, my father always said to me every single day, do you know how lucky you are to live here? And I truly knew that as someone who spent half of my life in New York City. I truly knew how great the Cape was. And so I'm flattered that I've been able to come home. And my biggest challenge in making the decision to come home was, how do I find a job where I have a really specific career in New York that I can't replicate back on the Cape? And after spending time trying to find businesses locally or businesses even in Boston that made sense for me, luckily Greg agreed to partner with me so we could start our own business and really do our own thing. And Greg is also a Yarmouthport native, and we grew up like a half a mile from each other. And being able to come back to my hometown, and it's sort of funny, like the Lighthouse, right? It says the beacon, like guides people, and our little cafe has become this beacon in town where the Yarmouthport had really become a sleepy village, and there was no place to sit down and grab a cup of coffee, and now we have a place to do that, and it's become such an amazing time after post-COVID, people running into each other again for the first time in 2 years, or running into people they haven't seen since high school. It's sort of a fun little place, and that is such a grateful sort of bright side to it all. That wasn't when we first started. It was a wholesale food business, and when the cafe sort of happened, and I really pushed Greg to make it happen, and we have so much fun there every single day. Greg and I both work in the kitchen, and it's like a really gratifying place to be coming from like this crazy corporate world where we both lived in for many years, and now we're like getting our hands dirty, making sandwiches, making scones, making all the things, as well as running the other side of the business, which is the wholesale side. So it's fun to kind of go, kind of go the other direction and do all the, take out the trash to selling the goods, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, just be rehashing what they said. It's gratifying to be able to run a business on the Cape. I mean, this is the place I love, and all those challenges turn out to be they typically work as they can be fun to work through sometimes, and then they become a great marketing story on the other end. And so all that stuff, as far as in our experience, it's been worth the effort, and it leads to more opportunities and keeps our business growing. So, yeah.
Great.
And I think for me, I have a child that I am raising here, and so working for a company and being able to promote the efforts that we're doing is important, because I want him to be able to grow up in that kind of environment, and he needs to learn at a young age so that way he can continue. We only have one planet, and Mother Nature is not exactly very happy with us right now. So everything that we can do to educate our guests and team members and the community is what's very gratifying for all of that. So.
Well, I want to thank all of our panelists.